studio, we have Hugo Lowell, political investigations reporter with The Guardian, and Katie Phang, attorney and host of The Katie Phang Show here on MSNBC, who's doing a little overtime and stuck around after her show. Thank you so much to both of you. As we look at this week, Hugo, 2 days of testimony from Stormy Daniels, bookended by multiple custodial witnesses, is how they're being referred to. You were there in court this week. Give us a sense of Daniels' demeanor, Trump's reactions, and I'm curious how engaged the jury was listening to Stormy Daniels as compared to other witness testimony. Because, look, the salacious nature of her testimony cannot be ignored.
Yeah, look, she testified for 2 days, and the first day was very, very gossipy. It was very informal. And I think that had an effect of kind of humanizing her testimony, and it made it quite accessible. On the flip side, it also made it sound like you were part of some gossip session, that she was trying to, trash Trump a little bit. But then on the second day, on the cross-examination, because Susan Necklaces, Trump's lawyer, was so aggressive in trying to poke holes in Necklace's story, it's almost as though your sympathy goes back to Stormy Daniels. I mean, she was pressing Stormy Daniels on, did you have dinner with Trump? Would you call it dinner time? Was it actual dinner? She spent an extremely long time on that. And that had two effects. I think one, in terms of for the jury, it made Stormy Daniels a more sympathetic person than she might have otherwise been. And second, it also opened the door for the district attorney's office to start kind of questioning Stormy Daniels on things that the defense was not expecting or did not want to hear.
Interesting, Katie. So the prosecution got into these lurid details, right, of Stormy Daniels' alleged sexual encounter with Donald Trump back in 2006, when she was 27, he was 60 years old. And you wrote about the ick factor of this testimony and argue that it is relevant to the case. Why did it have to be so detailed?
Yeah, and the headline's a little bit misleading. So when I say the ick factor, it wasn't Stormy Daniels' testimony. It's actually how icky you felt hearing that some 60-year-old man is, answering the door in satin pajamas, and then when she comes out of the bathroom, he's in a T-shirt and boxers lying, on the bed, like waiting, and laying in wait for Stormy Daniels. The ick factor that was so important is no matter if you didn't want to hear it, you heard it. And that's exactly the reason why the prosecution wanted the jury to hear it. Because nobody like Donald Trump wants to be running for president of the United States and have possible voters for him hear that. Remember, the timing is so important, Alex. This conversation, this incident didn't happen in a vacuum, right? In terms of when it was leaked. Remember, we had the Access Hollywood tape that comes out in 2016 on the eve of the November election. And that is when Stormy Daniels is paid to be silent, because Donald Trump and his campaign didn't want people hearing exactly what that jury heard. And so everybody knew that Stormy Daniels was going to be a part of this case in chief for the prosecution. Everyone was waiting to hear from her, and she delivered for the prosecution. And to Hugo's point, Susan Necklace did not artfully deal with the ick factor, right? She leaned into it. There was this huge mistrial motion that was made on Tuesday at the close of Stormy Daniels' testimony about how it was so unfairly prejudicial for the jury to hear all of these details about Donald Trump telling Stormy that he reminded her of his daughter, Ivanka, gross, and all of the other things that he did. But instead of staying away from it and focusing on the fact that Stormy Daniels did not have personal knowledge about the falsification and didn't have personal knowledge about communications from Donald Trump to Michael Cohen and Alan Weisselberg, they leaned in. The defense leaned in, thereby highlighting it. And that's what the purpose of my article was. It was to say you didn't object if you were the defense. Mershon pointed it out when he ruled against the defense for the motion for mistrial. And the failure to object is exactly the problem for the defense coming out of that Stormy Daniels testimony.
So, Katie, does the jury need to believe Stormy Daniels had sex with Donald Trump for him to be found guilty?
No, the jury just needs to believe that the idea of him having sex with Stormy Daniels and it getting out motivated the Trump campaign to pay off Stormy Daniels through Michael Cohen. And so wait, that provides that bridge.
This is like the doorman story.
Yeah,
it could be that, which was false, but they paid to make sure it didn't get out there.
Yeah, and it's such a great example, right, Alex? Dino the doorman, they even said that it wasn't true, but they still paid him to shut up, right? So if Stormy Daniels' story wasn't true, they still paid her to shut up. I think that's the common denominator. You're paying people to shut up so that they don't talk about you in a way that you think is going to be negative. Not because, remember, Stormy said, he didn't tell me to be confidential back in 2006 when we had sex. He never said he was worried about Melania. In fact, he told me that they lived in separate bedrooms even though they had only been married for a year. It was only on the eve of the election that he said, shut up, don't talk about it. And that's why he paid her off.
So in this cross-examination that Katie's been referring to of Stormy Daniels, Trump attorney Susan Necheles, she really tried to paint Daniels as seeking money and fame. She was referencing her memoir, a comic book, merchandise, including a Saint of Indictments devotional candle with her picture on it. And then Necheles asked, you're celebrating the indictment by selling things from your store, right? To which Stormy Daniels responded, not unlike Mr. Trump. Describe the defense team tactics and how you think Stormy handled those questions.
I mean, the tactic was to say that her story had changed from when she first told it publicly in 2011 to In Touch magazine, through to a 2018 interview that she did with Anderson Cooper on CNN, through to her trial testimony, and say, look, your testimony has changed so often. And I think this is the problem with clients who basically tell their story over and over again. You know, defense lawyers love it because they can pull them up on perceived inconsistencies. But there was one through line in all of these instances when she has told her story, and it has been consistent, and that is she has had sex with Donald Trump. The inconsistencies were minor in comparison. You know, she was getting pulled up on, your 2011 interview with In Touch magazine. You didn't describe, certain details. You didn't describe in your trial testimony, for instance, that you kissed Donald Trump. And, that shows that you've been making up your story. And in fact, Susan Necheles said, you're making this story up, right? And she goes, absolutely not. And the point is, all these small inconsistencies were tiny, and they don't matter to the main story. And actually, what was very revealing was when you actually look at what the In Touch magazine story was, it was a very small sidebar in print. And at the bottom, it says it's been edited for clarity and for length.
Interesting. So the defense drilled in hard on Stormy Daniels, and there was one point in which Necheles asked, you were selling yourself as someone who hated President Trump and someone who could get President Trump indicted, right? Daniels answers, I was not selling myself to anyone. So overall, Katie, was this a winning approach for the defense? Was the prosecution right to bring Stormy Daniels to the stand?
Yes, the prosecution was right to bring Stormy. The failure to bring Stormy would have been a problem. Not calling Karen McDougal, which the prosecution announced a couple of days ago, makes sense. The crux of those felonies that Donald Trump is charged with deal with the payments to Stormy Daniels. They didn't deal with the payments to Karen McDougal. Karen McDougal is just yet another example like Dino the doorman, right? It's just another example of the silencing of people that could have done harm to the Trump campaign in 2016. But the defense, again, the strategy to slut-shame Stormy Daniels for her professional life choices, to go after her for what? Selling merch? Are you kidding me? Donald Trump is the king of grift. He's hawking pieces of a suit right now with NFTs. I mean, he sells Bibles, right, for $59. I mean, that is a part of what the jury already knows. And so you know what? As a trial lawyer, don't insult the jury. Don't insult the common sense of a jury by making it seem like Stormy Daniels is doing something that your own client doesn't already do. And Stormy Daniels had the benefit, Alex, of that break on Wednesday. No trials on Wednesday, so ostensibly Trump can campaign. But that break from Tuesday to Thursday revealed a brand new Stormy Daniels on the witness stand on Thursday. Somebody who was composed and measured, who had zingers that were good ones to counter deftly what the defense was trying to do on cross. And so when Stormy left that stand on redirect, what did she say? She said, I didn't make it up. I didn't make any of this up. And to Hugo's point, the one through line that's always been consistent, that hasn't been inconsistent, she had sex with Donald Trump.
And look, we had the custodial witnesses this week, a few paralegals, a couple of telecom employees and the like. But let's talk about Michael Cohen and the way he's been depicted in the trial so far. I want you to have first crack at that, Hugo.
we have heard and seen little snippets of Michael Cohen. We've seen the invoices that he submitted to the Trump organization where he said, please pay me pursuant to our retainer agreement. And so I think when Michael Cohen finally testifies, we expect next week, Monday, Tuesday, and all the way through, it will be a big moment. And I think it's a big moment in multiple ways because it finally ties that final piece together, but also because Michael Cohen's such a crucial witness in this case overall. I mean, the information that Michael Cohen could provide in his testimony is going to be the link from the falsification of business records to Trump. We have not actually had a witness to date who has said, I specifically dealt with Trump, and Trump said, enter these as legal expenses, falsely enter them as legal expenses. And Michael Cohen is potentially presumably going to be the witness that can provide that bridge. The falsification of business record statute basically makes it a crime for someone to make or cause someone else to commit a false entry in business records. If Michael Cohen can provide that link and say, I arranged this with Trump so that I would send these sham invoices and Trump would record them on the general ledger in the Trump organization as legal expenses, that ties it all together. And Michael Cohen provides that crucial testimony.
Okay, we're all going to be glued to the testimony Monday, that is for sure. Hugo, thank you for joining me here in studio. Katie, of course, thank you.